On the road again. I just felt like talking. Ooh, that is hot, hot, hot. Hello, people. Let me let you come on in here. Hello, 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 hello. I'm about to go on and get started talking. I'll leave it up anyway, so I'm just going to start talking. This is, I guess it could be an unpopular topic, but at the same time, this is my afterlife, so everything is my imagination anyway. Even though I think people are separate from me, well, I don't think it's just like my reality is not reflecting what I know yet. And what I do know is that nothing is separate from me. This is my afterlife, and everything I see is in my subconscious mind. There is like basically nobody's really real. This is an aspect of my subconscious mind that I'm in right now, and everything and everybody I see is a part of my subconscious mind. I've already seen where I was on Sirius B in the real world, the more organic matrix. But I want to tell you about this organic matrix. People were still evil. And another thing too, before I get to the topic, because my topic is going to be for me, for myself. There's nothing else that's going to work for me outside of Christ. And I mean Christ consciousness, however you want to see it. Because when I do Christ consciousness and what I see, it looks like a light. Okay, I see a light. When I work on Christ consciousness for myself, I see a light. I don't see anything that look like a person. This is why Christ was never described. There was no physical description. Oh, well, they talked about the feet of bronze and, the hair of wool and all that stuff. So they're going to say it's a black man. I don't see any person. When I work on Christ consciousness or whatever, I don't see any person. I see a light. I see something that's already within me that has been brought down low that needs to rise up. That's what I see. And with that being said, what was I saying? I was going to say something else. Oh yeah, I said that even in Sirius B, which is supposed to be the more organic matrix, people are still very evil over there. And also, you don't really necessarily have to be a bad person to sink down into a lower realm. It's just really, it depends on how much you have going on in your heart. And all of your experiences in your life and the stuff that you continue to hold on to, like it could be great or molestation, a heartbreak from a marriage, something happening with your family, just different things that disappoint you in life, in the organic world. It really has a lot to do with what you're holding on in your heart. So it's not about you being a bad person or being nasty to people. Because I don't, from what I gather when I asked about what I was like over in the organic matrix, I was not a bad person. Actually, I was a little too caring and too nice to people. And end up carrying other people's garbage. You end up carrying other people's baggage. And this is the stuff that you carry in your heart. That's why I said this stuff continues to be pushed on ground to take on the burdens of everybody else. When you take on the burdens of other people like that, this is the stuff that you carry on you. That means you're not going to be light as a feather. So what's going to happen if you transition, you're going to go in wherever the weight is the most that's in your heart. Wherever the weight is the most that's in your heart, not in your conscious mind, because in your conscious mind and your conscious awareness, you can say, well, I don't care about that. None of that bothers me. And what people don't realize that those energies lie dormant for a long time. And because they lie dormant for so long, you think they're not bothering you. But the problem is it's still in your heart. Even though it's not in your conscious awareness, it's still in your heart. And whatever's weighing the heaviest in your heart is where your conscious awareness is going to end up. Whatever vibration you're going to be on. It's not about you being a good or bad person. That's why I don't believe in, this is why that's why I was doing a comparison between a Jezebel and Aunt Jemima. Both of them in the underworld. They're both energies of that underworld. Jezebel can be something else, but the point I'm saying is that Jezebel ain't taking on nobody's burdens. Aunt Jemima takes on other people's burdens, and Aunt Jemima might be sinking lower. If you would see between an Aunt Jemima and a person who's a Jezebel who's not a great person, I'm not gonna say a Jezebel always have to be not a great person, but I'm talking about the most evil, like the one that's described in the Bible with the original name, Jezebel. Even though she might not be the greatest person, if they're both that person with that characteristic of that Jezebel and the one with the Aunt Jemima that's always like the big mama, like in Soul Food, if both of them were to transition, you would think the one like Big Mama would be called heaven, right? Absolutely not. I already from experience. For me, it's not a debate. When you know something from experience, there's nothing to debate. Because anybody else want to debate you because they don't know and they choose to believe another way. But I already know from experience because I'm here in my afterlife, so there's nothing to debate. I didn't have to read a book to know this. This is my experience right now, being an Aunt Jemima and taking on other people's burdens like Big Mama in Soul Food. It's not going to get you in a better place than a murderer. It's not going to get you in a better place than a murderer. Because you can be saved all you want to, whatever you call saved, but the problem is that you have to know not to take on other people's burdens. Because part of being saved is that you have to allow Christ to live and you have to die. And when you take on other people's burdens upon yourself, upon your flesh, you're stealing your ego. Because Christ ain't never tell you to do no mess like that. That's not, when you get further into Christ consciousness, you will learn not to do that. And you will learn how dangerous that is. So taking on other people's burdens and being Aunt Jemima is a matter of the ego. That's all. That's ego. And even though that person, the so-called saved, might have gone to church and all that stuff or whatever, the process of being saved is, right? Wherever is weighing the heaviest in their heart, and that could include taking on other people's burdens, that's what they're going to carry with them. It don't matter how often they went to church, how often they even read the Bible. It does not matter. It has to do with your heart. It really has to do with your heart. And that's what I was saying. Between Jezebel and Aunt Jemima, you have both of them die at the same time, but who has the heaviest going on in their heart? Because wherever your heart is that's where you're going to end up once you transition. And this is why I was talking about this agenda with brown women taking on everybody's burdens like that. That's a bad idea. That's keeping you in hell. That's keeping you in a low vibration. That's probably why so many of them are overweight. They taking on other people's burdens without knowing that they're taking on other people's burdens. They don't even know they're taking on the world's burdens. They have no idea. That you could be taking on some Akbar, somebody you don't even know. You don't know that you took on his burdens. You have no idea. Because you only think what is happening, what affects you is in your conscious awareness. And you think that's the only thing that affects you is whatever is in your conscious awareness. But there's a lot of unconscious stuff that's happening that's weighing you down that you're not aware of. Okay? But now, I wouldn't want to be neither one of them. Like I said, for me, I prefer the Holy Spirit. I prefer Christ consciousness. For me, there's no other way other than that. With all the experience and everything I've been through, I've seen, for me, it's best to get into Christ consciousness. It's best to empty out all this stuff in our heart. It's best to get out of my ego, completely out of my flesh. Like it says in Galatians, it's not I but live, but Christ that lives in me. That's just what's going to have to work for me. Because I've already done the ego thing. I've already done everything in my flesh. I even done other practices. I don't get deep into other practices because I saw quickly that other practices don't work for me. All these other entities or whatever, they're not my friend. They don't work for me. So that's why I don't get into telling other people what to believe, because you tell people not to believe one thing, but then these people that's telling you what not to believe, they could be practicing all these other different type of spiritual practices. And whatever they practice don't work for me. Now, I don't believe in worshiping a person. Definitely, I don't believe in that. But I've already seen for myself the Christ consciousness of what that looks like. I've seen many times the rapture happen and people don't know what the rapture is. I've seen stuff open, I've seen in my dream or outside of the physical, when I'm dreaming, mostly when I'm dreaming, I see like the sky opening up, like it's like another world opening up in the sky. I've seen it so many times, and you'll see folks that's ready to go, they're being taken up. But then I don't make it. I still got stuff in my heart, so I don't make it. I'm not as light as a feather yet. So the rapture happens all the time. It all depends on when you're ready. It don't have anything to do with times, the season, the times and the seasons. You never know because it's not about a clock. Everybody's not going to see it. You have to be on a certain vibration. You have to be ready. If you have your weight, if your heart is weighed down with so much, you're not even going to see. You're going to, but the people who are ready, they're going to be taken up. And to some folks, it might look like they died. It might look like they disappeared. It might look like they went missing and they don't know what happened. But really, their heart was light as a feather and they were ready to go. They were ready to be taken. That's probably what happened. Like, I feel like that could have happened with Dr. Delbert Blair because he knew so much that he's crossed over. He probably crossed over before he passed away, and then he came across as he died. But he was just leaving this low vibrational realm to somewhere that's better because his heart was light. He knew not to carry everything on his heart because he knew so much. He knew that this stuff, nothing is real here. So he knew not to hold all this stuff in his heart because he knows nothing is real. Which brings me to this point. It's really time to stop working so much. Because when you know everything is fake, it's no need in working so much. But I know bills are real. That's why I always preach for myself. I always preach a simple life, simple living, getting more into simple living where I can be free of bills. Because if this life ain't real, even if it is real, you don't want to burden your heart with so much. You don't want to burden your heart with all these bills. You don't want to burden your heart with problems that's unnecessary to weigh on your heart. And then once you pass away, you never know when that might be. When you're ready to transition, you have so much weight on your heart because of all the stress and responsibility that it's no telling what realm you're going to end up in. It's best to just learn to clear your heart. Hello. Cooling down. My phone got hot because it was here in the sun while I was driving, so I still hope y'all can hear me. So I want to say, for me, there's no other option than to get get out of my flesh. Day by day, get out of my flesh and allow Christ to live in me. Only Christ, and not some man, not some person somebody that you think is a human being. Nothing like that. Not a man and not a woman. Okay, it's a type of consciousness. But anyway, for me, that's the way I know it because that's the way I've seen it. That's my experience. But anyway, I'm about to go in CVS right quick. But yeah, now what else was I going to say? Because it's the reason why I started to do this live. When I see a lot of people giving brown women advice, the best advice you can give them is to get out of their ego, and the best advice you can give brown women is to let go of their egos. And I'm not talking about brown women that you think are doing things wrong. I'm talking anybody can be in their ego, even if they're a nice person, even if they're a good person, even if they go and volunteer at the shelters and food banks and all that stuff. They can still have egos. You have good people that's in their ego. It has nothing to do with good and bad. Ego is like basically you believe when you are in your ego, then you wholeheartedly believe that the person that you think you are, that you see when you look in the mirror, you think that's really who you are. That's ego. When you don't know that the real you is lying dormant and the person that you see every day is the false you, you're not even real. The one that you think is real is actually owned by the government. The person, that's why they're able to do whatever they want to do, because it's fair game. It's not, what they're doing is not wrong. Our ego self, the person that we think is real, like our name on a license, that's why you think people say that's your government name. If that's your government name, then what does that mean? You're owned by the government. You're an ego. You're in your ego. The person that you think you are every day when you look in the mirror, you think that's you. That's your ego. The real you is dormant. The real you is dormant. And so what I'm saying is, and that's why the government is able to do whatever they want to do. So some people want to get into all this manifestation. That's fine, but it's really best to let the ego go. It's really best, especially when you're a brown woman at this time. As a brown woman in the United States of America, it's not like other people. And I feel like for brown women, only because this is my experience, I feel like for brown women, there really is no other choice but to let your ego go. And that means let your identity go and let the real you. If you don't want to call it Christ consciousness of Christ, that's fine. But let the real you. I think most people know that there's something inside of them that lies dormant. That's the real them. And it's time to let the real you come alive, and the false person needs to die. The false person needs to die. The person that has the government name, your government name, you're owned by the government. You're a government entity. That's why you use the words entity. When you look at applications and all that stuff, and you're described as an entity. We're entities. That's what we are, entities. When you talk about spirits and the entity attachments, well, we're entities. So we're demonic too. We're demonic. We're entities. Anything other than our true self to me is demonic. So even I'm demonic. Me and my ego as this person right here that goes to work and pay bills with the government name and living a life as this false person, that's demonic. That's actually the Antichrist. That's the Antichrist. So a lot of brown women, specifically for brown women, everybody, honestly, everybody, but brown women are in danger. So yeah, this message should be for everybody, but brown women are in danger, okay? Anybody else, yeah, things can happen to them randomly, but they're not in danger as a collective. Brown women are in danger as a collective, okay? And the best thing for me to tell brown women to do, instead of giving all this dogma advice about what they should do with their lives, because guess what? When you live as an ego person in this life, there's always going to be something that I can do better. There's always room for improvement for me. There's always going to be room for improvement for me. I'm not perfected. So I don't have the room to give people all this other advice. I don't have the room to tell nobody else what to do, no matter how messed up they looking and how crazy and deranged they looking. I don't have the room to give other people advice to tell them how to make their lives better. Because the point of the matter is they have a mental illness and they have a problem with the heart. And so telling folks what to do when they have a mental illness is not going to help to tell them what to do. I feel like the best thing to do, even when you do all these affirmations and when you do the hypnotherapy, you're creating another ego, because that's all we are, egos. You know, with our government name, with the identity that we think we are and who we think we are, they're really nothing but egos. And so when you do hypnotherapy and all this stuff, you're just changing all of the thought forms to a different set of thought forms so you can be a completely different person. But you're still an ego. So yeah, those maybe affirmations are okay to change your life because you're made up of a bunch of thought forms anyway and programs. And so you're just reprogramming your mind so you can have a completely different life. But it's not, you're still an ego. You still haven't let go of your identity. Okay, you're still an ego. And no matter how much you reprogram yourself, as long as you're an ego, the government have a right to you. And they are, I think they're after brown women. Brown women seem to be in danger to me. Brown women, I'm not going to say they need to let folks go who are abusive to them, which is a main group that seems to be the most abusive to them. I don't even want to talk to them about letting these group of people go, because the point of the matter is, in your ego, the best thing to do is just to allow the ego to die day by day, allow the ego to die, and to let Christ rise up in you. And now, it don't have to be that exact words. You can just say, allow your real self to wake up and to grow more than your false self. Your false self die and your real self, however you want to say it, don't have to be Christ, because I know Christ sounds churchy, so I don't want to sound churchy. Okay? I feel like that's the best advice for brown women, is to die to their ego and to let the real them that's lying dormant, to let that person wake up and dominate. And that is the way for me, that is the way to get out of all this trouble that's happening, that's coming for brown women. It's not going to help constantly telling them what they need to do, telling them not to mess with a certain group of men. Like it don't. No, I mean, because as long as they're in their ego is programmed already, and their ego has been programmed from birth. What they need to do is just go on and die. Go on and die to that ego, and let the Christ rise up in them. Christ consciousness, the real self, their God self, however you want to say it, the part of them that's perfect. Let that one dominate. Okay, the part of them that's not an ego, let that one dominate. But anyway, somebody said, "Can I do a live about brown women not like to be called not to liking to be called queen?" I only heard one person talk about not being called queen, and that's Quatita Dean. A walk with the ancestors, but she said queen means whore and king means pedophile. And so I don't know much about queen and king. According to her, because she used to go by queen all the time, and she stopped being called queen because she said queen means whore and king means pedophile. So when you calling these men kings, they're pedophiles, according to her, right? But I mean, it's not according to her. I guess when you look it up, that's what it is, right? She didn't make that up, I don't believe. But yeah, so that's it. I didn't title it because I was driving, so I'm going to put the title in the when I'm about to stop the live, and I'm going to put the title in because I was driving when I started the live, and I couldn't put the title in. So the title is just about brown women. Instead of just telling brown women what they should and shouldn't do, because brown women are in extreme danger right now. They are the first on the list to be taken out, and it's really to make sure. And they're not going to really. Let me tell you, death is a spiritual death, so they already spiritually dead, but they're going to physically remove them out this realm. That's what I'm saying. They are at a risk of physically being removed out this realm. And I feel like the way to try to avoid those things for a lot of brown women is they need to die to their flesh. They need to die daily to their flesh. And so if they die daily to their flesh, then they're allowing the real them to rise up. And the false person, the ego, to die. That's the flesh. The ego is the flesh. That's the best way for me to say it. The ego is the flesh. The real you is more like it's non-physical. And that's the part that needs to dominate the most. And I feel like that's a good advice for anybody. But everybody's not in danger to say the way the brown woman is in danger. So that advice could be for anybody. But brown women need it right now. They need it right now. Okay? But anyway, that's it. Yeah, a lot of dust is called brown women. Yeah, I don't, a lot of these guys, I don't even pay attention to the crazy. I don't hardly pay attention to them anymore. When I realized what most of them are, once you start to work on yourself, and it gets to a point where certain people, you just automatically know. This is why I was saying a while ago, the brown woman, self-love is more important than just telling them what to do. Now, that's what I was saying a few months ago, that I used to say for brown women is like self-love is more important than, just telling them who they should deal with. Because when you get more into love, then you're automatically you're going to be turned off about a lot of things. You're not even going to want to give a lot of stuff your attention. That's what I'm talking about. So instead of, if a brown woman already have a bad habit of a pattern of choosing certain types of people, then you can't just tell her what she should and shouldn't do. That's not going to work. Because if she's choosing these kind of people, it's because of something that's going on within her. So the best thing to do is for her to get into love. But from my experience, I need to die to my flesh. I need to die to my ego, which is flesh. And the real me needs to rise up. And then the more the real me rises up, which I just call Christ in me, right? Once that part of me continues to rise up, I don't even want to be around these people because I'm on a different, my consciousness is changing constantly to the point where I don't even want to give these people the time of day. And that's what I'm talking about. That's the best advice to give somebody, is for them to die to their flesh daily. Because the more they die to their flesh, they're going to lose interest in those things. They probably lose interest in eating certain foods, honestly. So I don't even want to go on the fast and do all this stuff to try to force myself to not to like certain foods. Because if you're just gonna try to go, oh, let me stop eating it for a month. Well, if it's still in you, the craving could come back. Like it needs to be a mind to the point where you just no longer ever want it again, right? But anyway, that's it though, and I will talk later. Okay.